and he's back again. I think he's absolutely brilliant. So ladies and gentlemen, go wild, go crazy now.
Oh,
10!
Thanks, Jay. Before I start, I'd like to thank Jay for everything, for being a fantastic compere. Everyone for Jay? I was doing one-to-one with Jay earlier in the week, and I didn't know what his surname was, so I asked him to spell his surname, and he started by going S-O-D, and then he laughed. And I thought, that's great, he's been doing stand-up for years and he still finds the fact that the first 3 letters of his surname are a swear word is still hilarious. So that was good. I said I must introduce him to my friend Paul Cumthorpe. Anyway, yeah, so my name's Richard Mahaffey. I am a mix of Scottish and Irish, which basically means I'm tight but I'm too thick to understand why. Often when I do this, I tend to dance around the floor a lot because of nerves and stuff. But the other reason I do this is it's what is known as the dying for a pee dance. I don't know if any of you blokes do the dying for a pee dance, the dance you do when you're dying for a pee. I was told about this by my fiance, who tends to know when I'm dying for a pee even before I do, which is interesting. Hello. Okay. I was born in 1973. But I have had a look in the mirror and I don't resemble Gary Glitter or Jimmy Savile, which is just a relief. In my opinion, they should just arrest the whole of the 1970s and be done with it. It would make things a lot easier. I will be 42 this year. Yes, I know, you can't believe it, can you? So eventually I will get to find out if that is the time of the life of the universe and everything. I was brought up in the 1980s and a big fan of 1980s pop music, to the extent that the reason why I don't smoke and have never smoked was because I prefer to spend my money on buying 12-inch singles rather than buying a packet of cigarettes. That and the fact that no one actually bothered to offer me any in the first place. There were some great records in the 1980s. The Police had a song called Da Do 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 Da 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 Da. They don't write lyrics like that anymore. There were some other great bands in the 1980s. I remember having a big argument with my cousin at the time, who was a big fan of Duran Duran, and I was a big fan of a band in the 1980s called Frankie Goes to Hollywood. And I thought naively as an 11-year-old that the reason why they were seen in a lot of their photos wearing leather gear and with their arms around each other was that they were just best buddies. The naivety of youth, eh? As I say, my cousin was a big Duran Duran fan, and the problem I always had with Duran Duran is that some of their lyrics in their songs were a bit weird for me. For example, there's a lyric in their song, Is There Something I Should Know, which goes, "You're easy on me, you're about as easy as a nuclear war." And even as a 12-year-old thinking, what, is he actually comparing the breakup of a relationship with the obliteration of the Earth in this planet and the total destruction of the Earth? But then again, Simon Le Bon couldn't even drive a boat, twat. They also had another song at the same time called The Reflex, with the lines, "Everything the reflex does leaves you answered with a question mark." Well, if it's got a question mark at the end, then that's a question, not an answer, you twat. The other band from the 80s I couldn't stand at the time, because I was a boy and we were supposed to hate them in the first place, was Bros. Any Brossettes here? Yeah, I also was a bit weird that Bros only had one S at the end of their name, which surely that should be pronounced Bros, but everyone seemed to call them Bros. There were 2 twins in the band. The lead singer called Matt Goss, I think named after a type of paint, and another twin brother called Luke, and another member who no one can ever remember the name of, who played the bass. He was sort of the Luke Donald of the 1980s. I told that joke the other week and then realised that for anyone to understand that joke in the first place, they would need to know who Luke Donald was, and if they did know it, the joke wouldn't work. So, there we go. I'm also a big fan of 1960s pop music. Growing up with Mum and Dad, who were big Beatles fans, I loved the Beatles. There was John Paul, the only band to have a serving Pope in their band. There was George, who was named after a pink hippo, and Ringo, who was named after a packet of pickled onion crisps. I don't think pop music is as good today. You've got, for example, Ed Sheeran. I remember Ed Sheeran when he was Mick Hucknall. Simply Ed, I call him. And then you've got One Direction. I feel I'm being stalked by them. We've even aired them tonight. One Direction, they're not so much a band as a merchandiser's wet dream. People ask me, do you like One Direction? And I say, well, I don't really like the music, but I love their towels, they're really fluffy, and their sandwich boxes really do keep their sandwiches fresh. The only problem I have often had growing up was I've never felt of myself as much of a blokey bloke. There's a lot of people who are blokey blokes. I've never considered myself to be one of those. One of the reasons is I've never been into violence and casual racism, or to put it another way, I've never been a Chelsea fan. But then again, they all look the same to me. And I've never been a fan of driving either. I'm not into cars. I remember going to a friend's wedding once and getting to go home in his car and not being able to tell the difference between his car and another car. I tried to get into this other car simply because it was a white car. It was a white car. My mate's car was a white car. That didn't matter. I could just get in that one. Didn't work. Anyway, and nor did the joke, obviously. I've been told to be a bit more positive in my life. A lot of my fiancée, for example, and a lot of my relations have been telling me I need to be a lot more positive. The reason why I feel I'm not much positive at the moment is because I feel we live in a very negative society. Clues to that, for example, two of our most popular game shows. The biggest game show on television at the moment is called Pointless. I think that says it all. And prior to that, it was a game called The Weakest Link. Well, I've decided I've come up with my own couple of game shows that I'm going to send to the BBC and ITV companies. One's called I Am a Thick Bastard, and the other one's called Fuck You. I thought, fuck you. Originally I suggested it would be presented by Frankie Boyle, but then I decided actually Nick Clegg would be a good presenter. After all, he's going to have nothing to do come May. And the first lot of contestants on the programme are going to be students, and so he's used to telling them to fuck you. I also like watching a lot of comedy. I like watching comedy. What always I find funny is you have a list of writers sometimes on these comedy shows, and there's about 20 writers, and then after the 20 writers, they've got 20 people under the term additional material. How do you become an additional materialist? And what's the difference between an additional materialist and a writer? I mean, do they go to their careers officer when they're at school and say, I'd like to be an additional materialist, please? Or I can imagine them being at a party and going up to the host of the party and saying, hello, I'm an additional materialist. And the host of the party says, you should meet my mate Dave. He's also an additional materialist. Why don't you two get together and become a writer? Anyway, I think I better go now. My name's Richard Mahaffey. Nice to meet you all. Goodbye. Oh, by the way, I wrote this show, but there was some additional material, most notably by Jay.